While we are here, we want to bring you a slice of the city. What is it that makes it tick? What are the challenges that it faces? Flooding, we've learned, is a major concern, and the reason is quite simple. This city is located near the ocean, and it is very low-lying. In fact, in some places, Tokyo is below sea level. So when typhoons dump rain on the Japanese capital, the city is immediately flooded. Year after year, Tokyo loses trillions because of floods. In 2019, the losses topped 2 trillion yen. That's more than $15 billion. Chances are things will only get worse from here. Climate change is supercharging typhoons and making floods more common. The question is, can Tokyo survive this onslaught? Almost 3 decades back, the city constructed an underground tunnel to catch the floodwaters. They call it a temple. We visited the facility to see how it works and whether it's enough to stop what's coming. Thousands have lived without love, not one without water. The striking yet depressing words of British poet Hugh Auden. Tokyo lives by these words. The city's history was shaped by dozens of rivers. You may not see it from the streets, but underneath all this concrete, nearly 100 rivers and canals are flowing. They nourish Tokyo's 37 million people. The locals mostly admire and respect the rivers, unless it rains. If it rains, all bets are off. The same life-giving rivers will overflow their banks. Tokyo's narrow streets stand no chance against the gushing water. Downtown Tokyo is usually the first to sink. In the 1950s and 60s, this part of town was repeatedly flooded, a nightmarish mix of water and mud. Back then, the drainage system was not efficient. If it rained, floods were inevitable. In 1947, Typhoon Kathleen hit Tokyo. It dumped massive amounts of rainfall on the city. More than 1,000 people were killed and 31,000 others lost their homes. 10 years later, Typhoon Ida did the same. And remember, this was before climate change. The writing was on the wall. Tokyo had to build resilient drainage systems. Dams, canals, levees. Anything to stem the ravaging waters. But one project stands out, not just for its imposing looks, but also for its ruthless efficiency. And we are heading there now. We are on the outskirts of Tokyo, and this to my right is the Metropolitan Area Outer Underground Discharge Channel. It's a bit of a mouthful. The locals here call it GCAN, so that's the name we'll stick to. And from the outside, it looks like any other discharge facility. But we will take you inside to show you the real deal. The first stop is here, a sample of what to expect underground. There are models of tunnels, water pumps and drains, also videos on how they work. After a quick look around, we head to the main facility. As we arrive, a couple of tourists emerge from below. Apparently, flood prevention is a tourist favorite. The trip down is straight out of Hollywood. The walls are pasted with symbols and warnings, and with each flight of stairs, the temperature drops. Chilling, both literally and figuratively. The stairway opens into this gigantic silo. It's empty, except for a couple of guards. This is Tokyo's silver bullet against flooding, a massive network of underground tunnels. Some numbers first. The whole tunnel is 6 kilometers long and 78 meters wide. See those pillars? There are 59 of them inside this tunnel, each pillar weighing 500 tons. At full capacity, each silo can hold 59 million liters of water. No wonder they call it the underground shrine or the underground temple. The pillars do look like the Greek Parthenon, only they're infinite times bigger. The construction for this facility began in 1993. It took 13 years to complete. The cost, $2 billion. And since then, it has been used 121 times. And honestly, it's hard to describe how big this place is. You could fit a space shuttle in here, or the Statue of Liberty. Flood water is first channeled through this massive tank. Through here, the water reaches these tunnels. That's step 1. Push the water away from the surface and into this facility. Step 2 is disposal. Where does all this water go? All the way to River Edo on the other side. That's where these pumps come in. 4 machines with 14,000 horsepower each. They can push 200 tons of water per second. Now, to give you some context, imagine an Olympic-sized swimming pool. These pumps could drain that in less than 12 seconds. It's expensive, but it works. These tunnels have the capacity to absorb abnormal amounts of rain.
When comparing before and after this reservoir was created, the number of houses damaged by floods after heavy rain decreased by 90%.
The problem is, abnormal is getting worse. Rainfall in Japan is expected to rise 10% in this century, 19% during the summers, and even sci-fi tunnels have their limits. Tokyo has the money, the technology, and the resources to build this. But how many countries can replicate it? Can Dhaka, for instance, build a system like this? And as efficient as it is, this may not be enough because climate change is supercharging typhoons. And for Tokyo, that means grave danger to 2.5 million people living in low-lying areas. They've done well so far to tame the wrath of rivers. But climate change might disturb this fragile status quo. So hard infrastructure alone will not be enough. Japan needs clever investments on climate action, on green energy. For centuries, Tokyo lived in harmony with its rivers. It was a partnership that helped the city flourish. Today, Tokyo has built an underground temple for those rivers, not out of respect, but out of fear. With the WION team in Tokyo, this is Palki Sharma Upadhyay. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.